Happy Friday, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
while we wait for everybody to get on, anybody have any success stories they care to share from the past week or lessons you learned?
So I guess more in the lessons you learn category is, we always talk about with ChatGPT and all that you need to really check the information that it supplies because it's not always right. But it's not limited to ChatGPT. A relative of mine got a report that came from RPR via an agent that she was talking to. She lives in an area that is not in a state that we belong to or we have offices in. But the report showed that there had been a foreclosure on the property. And she said that, she reached out to me and she said, Robert, I don't know why it says this. We've never had any kind of foreclosure. Could you, tell me what am I supposed to do about this? So the first thing I did was I went to since it said that the county had bought the house at foreclosure, I went up to the county records. And when you type in the address on the county site, you can't put in whether it's a road or a street or an avenue or whatever. You can just put the number, the house number, and the name of the street. So when I did that, it came up and it said that this was, for argument's sake, Smith Avenue. And my relative said to me that it was Smith Road. So that when I looked at the website I was looking at for the county, it showed no such thing as any foreclosure, and that it showed continuous ownership by the relatives. So I sent this information to her, and she was very much relieved. And I said, "Look, you should really get in touch with the county and see what the issue is here." And she said, well, I know there's always been an issue between whether it's, Smith Street or Smith Road. I said, well, I think you ought to get it resolved so that when it comes time to sell the house, the records all match. So the point of the story really is that, I didn't just believe the fact that there had been a foreclosure, and we went to another direction to find out if in fact that was true or not. So always, do the due diligence. And I suggested to her that whoever the agent was who had sent her that information needed to be instructed to do his due diligence, or move on.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And Sandy Hancock, the sheet is now filled. I often work on it till the last minute and then just pop the information on the sheet. So the link in the invitation is now completed with the content for today. I want to talk a moment before we get into today's topic, and I want to say that phishing and scamming is at a new high level. And one of our smartest agent got victimized by a rather sophisticated yet simple scam where a lead came in. They referenced a prior sale. They said, can we meet? The agent had offered them their Zoom link. They said, I'm having trouble getting onto your Zoom link. Can we do a Google Meet instead? And they sent their Google Meet link. And when they clicked on the Google Meet link, it took complete control of the computer. And within minutes, Zelle payments were going out, gift cards were being purchased, and it was a complete disaster. So if it could happen to some of our smartest agents, I want everybody to just be aware of this phishing scam that's going out. And it's getting to be very sophisticated and seems very real. So please avoid clicking on links that you get. The more juicy the client seems, the more we tend to get emotionally connected, and our our safety mechanism, our logical safety mechanism, goes by the wayside. So please, please, please be aware.
I did a hacking the last couple days. We could see on the network that someone was trying to get into our network and into my computer specifically and into my phone, access my phone. It turned out it was from a newsletter that was sent to me that looked very legitimate and had interesting topics in it that I enjoy reading about, politics and different real estate and things like that. and I clicked a link to unsubscribe because I get enough. I tried to unsubscribe and I couldn't unsubscribe, but they never got in. But anyway, this newsletter looked so legitimate. It was called Bank Street. So I agree, boy. I mean, these schemes, they just, and it had, I mean, anyway, it got shut down after we figured it out where it came from.
And Beth, you had a good week. You had a special visitor, right?
Oh, we did. Yes, we had Chris Lim, Remax president, visited us, and we had a photo shoot with him. We brought out the big inflatable balloon in downtown Celebration, and we took a picture with him, and he was very excited. He was you didn't go to that, did you, Rob? That T3 conference that he was attending?
Wait, they made a T3 conference?
I know. I was like, wait a minute.
I'm gonna.
It was called T3, and it was in Orlando, and he was there with Travis and with the Canadian Don.
Well, I'd rather be 2 instead of 3. So
yeah, this was I don't know what the T3 was, but
it's
anyway.
a knockoff. Jason, it's a knockoff.
That's right.
Rob, it happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I got contacted by a client, and they said they're moving into town, but they would like to have a Zoom with me first to get to know me. And something just felt suspicious. So I said, I'd rather talk to you first, and then I'll be happy to do a Zoom. And then I never heard from them again.
Same with me. I bet you I've had at least 10 in the last couple of months. And I just say, I don't meet with people I haven't met in person on a Zoom, on their Zoom, because that's what they want to do. They want to infect your.
Hey, and I'll tell you what,
everything.
I've even had it so far where they got on the phone with me and we did a WhatsApp video call, and things just kind of transposed from there. Here's the best advice. Never, ever, ever click on a link you're not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Reality is that's the only way that they're going to get in. Chase the lead down to it's, you never know when it's actually going to be legit, but send them your Microsoft Meetup or your WhatsApp or what. WhatsApp's actually probably one of the better ones because it's actually encrypted, but barring that conversation, don't click on any link that they're sending you, because that's how
they'll respond. Then they respond saying, well, I'm having a difficult time getting on yours. Please join mine. Right. So I can infect you.
So yes. So Beth, please, don't keep your guard at an elevated level. It's very tempting. It seems natural. I think with AI, it's probably getting to be more sophisticated. Okay, the process, and more inviting for us to fall victim to it. So please, demonstrate restraint. Insist on a call first. Make sure that they're real. We're all looking to help people and to build our book of business, but the consequences are, very severe if you fall victim to that. Okay. So without further ado, I want to get started with today's session, and I'm not going to admit how many years I've been in the business, but it's over 30. Okay, we'll leave it at that. The first thing I want to say is something that's ringing in my head, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to contextualize it with what it means to me. And I'm going to give credit to the author of this statement, who is Jay Abraham, who's one of the preeminent marketers in the industry, and he has accolades, and he's actually the coach of Tom Ferry. So that gives you the caliber of this man. He said in a Tom Ferry interview that I watched, and I rewatched, and I watched it probably 5 times because it really struck home. 2% of what happens to us are acts of God, events outside of our control. The other 98% are shaped by the actions we take or fail to take, the decisions we make or fail to make, the forces and factors around us that are constant and unchanging, that we either recognize or fail to recognize, and either harness or refuse to harness. So basically, in a nutshell, what it says is most of what happens to us, we are not victims of what happened, that we are influences in the process, right? We have influence and we have control over more than we think we do. What's an example of sometimes where you feel you may not have control? Anybody?
Home inspections.
Okay. And home inspections, you don't have control over the report plan, but you do have control of what meaning it has to your client, and you have control of what expectations you set up front, correct?
Yeah, I was just throwing one out. I never have problems on them.
No, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think the big one that a lot of our team and other teams say is that, buyers are unrealistic or sellers have an inflated value of their home. And they say it like it's something new. But if you've been in the business 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, it's been constant throughout. It hasn't changed. Okay. And if we know what we're going to encounter most of the time, why don't we have a different strategy and a different approach? Does that not make sense? Okay. I'm going to skip around here a little bit, but this one here, selling is a process to get a client intellectually committed to a future result that is good for them, and then to get them to emotionally commit to the next step. And this is all in the sheet that you have. If you like any of it, you don't need to worry about taking notes. You can just listen. But selling is the process to get a client intellectually committed to a future result that's good for them. So that's good for us and good for them, right? Selling is not manipulating them to do something that they don't want to do, or to get them to do something that's only good for us. So selling is a process to get a client intellectually committed to a future result that's good for them, and then to get them emotionally committed to take the next step. Okay. And if you are into changing your mindset, sometimes you have to, take a look at this, read it, reread it, and embrace it so that it's natural for you and it's the way you think. 2% of what happens to us are acts of God. Events that are completely outside of control. You get a crazy seller, maybe a mentally unstable, or there's a listing that you don't want. That's out of your control. The other 98% are shaped by the actions we take or fail to take, the decisions we make or fail to make, the forces and factors around us that we either recognize or fail to recognize. And if we recognize it, we either need to harness it or refuse to harness it, right? So we can recognize it, but if we don't do anything, it's on us. So an example I see is there's an overwhelming number of listings that are coming on the market at the inappropriate price. Now that's an opportunity for buyers to take advantage when they have to accumulate days on market and adjust the price downward. But for our sellers, to me, it's a sign of a failed communication at the appointment, right? And who feels that their sellers are more unrealistic now than they've been? Anybody?
Definitely.
So Beth, do you feel the sellers are unrealistic?
Well, the problem is our market is really softer, and they probably are unrealistic, but we have so many less buyers in the market right now that if you don't make your property a no-brainer, they'll buy something else. So it's really challenging. People are reluctant to price low enough to make it compelling.
So Beth, how do you approach the conversation of price at a listing appointment?
I do the Rob.
Well, what's the Rob?
I put the spreadsheet together and I do the lottery pricing, the market pricing, and the auction pricing. And I show the days on market and how all that works. And they're like, here's what I'm finding on listings that are in my particular case. We're really not overpriced, but we obviously are because we're not getting the activity in the offers. So then we're overpriced. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else. There's nothing wrong with the properties.
So Beth, if you're to take yourself out of the appointment and you're to zoom in from the sky and overlook your listing appointment, who's in control of the appointment?
Could be the agent.
No, I'm asking, Beth, who's in control of your appointments?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking to my last listing appointment and trying to remember if I felt like I was in control or not. Yeah, I think I am. Yeah. I'm saying I'm in control.
You don't appear confident that you're. I'm being honest. You don't appear confident that you're. You don't appear confident that you're in. And this is not a criticism. This is a learning experience. Okay.
Oh,
and we need to ask. to ask more questions, right, to complete the mission. And selling is the process to get the client intellectually committed to do to a future result that's good for them, and then get them emotionally committed to the next step. What's good for them is to price it right, okay? And what you're saying is, as the prices come down, it's emotionally difficult when you have to tell the client the truth that the market's softer than it was 6 months and a year ago. Okay. Right. But it sounds like to me that maybe the client is still associating the price with it being your opinion of value, right? And one of the things that I might have not done a good job teaching you, Beth, is that we need to disassociate the pricing of the home from being our opinion. So one of the things that, it might be a critical step that is on me is, Beth, I want to share with you the market value is the perceived market value. Okay. It's what an appraiser would come up with if you hired him to sell your house. And it's what a competent agent using the practices of the industry would come up with, but it doesn't mean it's what it's going to sell for. However, we need to be honest with them about that and not have them think that it's our opinion. Because as I talk to more agents, okay, over time, okay, we fear them saying, "Oh, you don't see the value in my house, Beth? I don't want to hire you. You don't see the benefit. You don't see the attributes," right? And it becomes about you and me.
Yeah.
But if I can disassociate it from it and say, "Hey, this is the way the process works. This is how an automated appraisal would look," right? And it's an unemotional opinion of value. But I want to show you 3 unique opportunities to launch your home onto the market. Would you be interested in hearing 3 instead of 1? Everybody would. And you need to have the pitch and the tone and the confidence to control the conversation. And if I come out of a listing appointment with any of you, 98% of the time, I'm in control of the conversation. Okay. And I'm not arrogant, but I am deliberate and intentional, and every pause, every word and sentence is deliberate, because, this is the red zone. This is where we make the money, right? This is what we exist to do. We exist to go on that appointment and to optimize the outcome. And the outcome is not just getting the listing signed, is it?
No, it's to get it sold.
Well, it's to get it, and it's not just to get it sold. It's to deliver the maximum equity, the maximum value to the seller, and to get repeat business, right?
Right.
Because if we go deeper than that, right? If you go on a listing appointment and you sell it, but it's not a great experience, is that a tremendous referable experience for the client or not?
No.
Right. So in other words, we need to sell ourselves on what needs to happen. And then we need to ask questions so that the client convinces us that this is not what they should do, but this is what they must do. This is not a good idea, but this is the best strategy. So Beth, no free pass. I'm taking accountability, because I think the critical piece that we didn't discuss was if it comes out of our mouth that I believe the opinion of value is X, okay, it allows them to funnel the disappointment to us. If I say, if you were to hire an appraiser or use the standard practice in the industry, the opinion of value is Y, okay? So that gets me to another principle: control the controllable. You can't control your first thought of the day. If you wake up, oh, I don't feel like going to work, but you can control your second, okay? Focus is an acronym for follow one course until successful. Pretty cool. I just found that one. I really like it a lot. Selection of price is a strategic exercise. When you go on an appointment, you need to ask a lot of questions. You need to showcase the complexity and deliver simplicity. If I say, and these are random thoughts, I can probably do a better job putting them together, but if I say, one of the options is to do auction strategy, what comes to your mind? Cheap, distressed, right?
Multiple offers, I think, is what I thought.
So I think auction in the public's realm might come across as, the house is going to auction. It's a sheriff's sale. It's a distressed sale. It needs to sell quickly, right?
Hardship, fire sale,
Hardship, fire sale. Okay, so I want to redefine that for everybody here. Okay, auction is not distress. Auction is creating urgency, getting traffic, and condensing a short process and condensing activity into a short process of time, further invoking the fear of loss. Does that make sense?
What was that?
Okay, it's in the handout, but I want you to listen. Okay, auction is not distress. It's creating urgency and getting traffic and condensing the sales process to a shorter period of time by invoking fear of loss. Is that not all true? Okay. Fear of loss is the greatest motivator. Fear of loss is the greatest motivator, right? When you have a client and there are 3 offers or there's a lot going on, fear of loss will often get them to emotionally go above their logical opinion of value. And that's what we're looking to do, right? We're looking to get them to pay the highest possible price in fear of loss, not to say, how can I exploit this opportunity? Because I know there's no activity, right? So auction is not distress. So a couple of, and this is all in here, a couple of phrase that you can use, that you can plug into our track record of success. You're not just hiring me. We use a systems approach. You hire our processes and the entire system. So if somebody thinks they're hiring an agent, if you have everything, if you have a process lined out to get it sold, they're really hiring the process, right? In addition to the person. There are 3 agreements that govern a real estate transaction. Does anybody know what those are? Anybody know that the 3 agreements?
Price, location, no?
So it's ultimately the purchase and sale agreement, right? Now there's the buyer's agency agreement and there's a listing agreement. So when I go on an appointment, I outline, hey, there's 3 agreements that control the process, that control real estate transactions. It's the listing agreement we're going to do today, the buyer's agency agreement, and then it's the buyer and seller's sales and purchase agreement. Okay. So real estate is a game of contracts and power players, which is really true if you look at the numbers. I mean, the elite are doing massive amounts, and the rest, I don't know what they do. Best agents don't get into the real estate business. The real estate business gets into them. Think about that one. This goes towards, one of my pitfalls is you go to an event or a seminar or a session like Daryl Davis, and you're all pumped up. But then a week later, you're like kind of back to where you were. Motivation is only good for 24 hours. It's like bathing. It needs to be done daily. Positive self-expectancy. You're either alive and growing or dead and dying. Okay. Intellectually, you're like, why do I need to be motivated? But you really do need to revisit, this is why vision boards and affirmations anchor you to a certain success. In this business, a few random thoughts. Most people won't do it. Like, I can show everybody what the best agent in the business does. And I don't know, Glenn, are you here?
I'm here, Rob. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, you can steal the playbook from, like, so many of the top agents will share exactly what they do, and they'll give you the playbook, yet most agents won't do it, which is amazing to me, right?
Always.
And Glenn, they're not giving you a half-baked version. I've seen, people at some of these conferences and even for free on YouTube and podcasts share with you some of the best nuggets to be successful in this business, yet nobody runs with it. Isn't that like a mind bender to you, Glenn?
And frustrating, right? Because you're putting it out there. You're saying, here's the ticket. And then,
right. And for you're a perfect example. You visit Dallas and you're doing a training for AI, and I think you filled the room for 2 sessions. I hope people do it, right? Because you didn't do it for yourself. You did it because you wanted to share some of the experiences and make the process a little bit better for everybody, correct?
Yeah.
So most people won't do it. Number 2, less is better. Okay. I was talking with a platinum agent here, really talented, and we're working on her business strategy for the next year. And we go to 1 or 2 things, and then she starts going into 5 or 7 things. And I'm like, whoa, let's just focus on a couple of things. Let's execute. Let's get it done before we go and do other things, because being a jack of all trades and a master at none gets you mediocrity, and the mediocre agent in this business is broke, right? So it's about specialization. I believe in the power of like a 90-day cycle. Do you do that, Glenn? Like, you do 90-day sprints, correct?
Everything. Yep.
Because you can't do something in 2 days, but you could probably accomplish some really significant initiatives in 90 days. And then it really becomes a habit and a culture. And then that next 90 days, you revisit it. And if it's not working, you can scrap it or modify it. For many of us on this call here, I hate to call you out, but learning without implementing is edutainment, and it's the illusion of progress. Okay. Learning without implementing is edutainment, and it's the illusion of you're kidding yourself. You need to take action and do things. And this week I've been down here in our Southeast Florida offices, and Miguel and Abe had introduced me to a bunch of really talented people. And as I interview them, I ask them questions.
What is this meeting looking like?
Let me mute everybody.
He's muting me.
So, I've met a lot of great people in the short time I'm here. And what I realize is a lot of them are just looking at what's the cheapest brokerage model to get nothing out of. Okay. And, when you list a property, or if you're a manager, if you bring somebody on board, our choice is never to be the cheapest. Our choice is to be the greatest value. Okay. And some of these people pay virtually nothing, but they get less than nothing and they're struggling. And, you can't put a price on, Glenn Baker's caring about his team. There's just not a monetary value for, how do you price caring, Glenn?
Well, we have a saying, you can't deposit a split.
Yeah.
Zero. I can get 100% of zero and still zero.
But you invited your entire team, and I think you footed the bill for them to go to a tremendous conference to get exposed to things that they can learn. And I do believe that you still don't put handcuffs on them and chain them to the team. If they want to leave, they can leave, but they won't leave because you're committed to delivering tremendous value, right?
Yep.
I mean, you don't have penalties if they leave, do you?
No, in fact, we're probably the least penalizing team on earth when you leave us.
But that's important. People undervalue, and how do you price the importance of environment and culture?
Rob, excuse me. We've invited Natasha, who's on the call this morning with us.
All right, Natasha, welcome.
Thank you.
Did you meet with your seller?
I tried. I called and I left her.
All right. Well, after you meet with her, you can determine whether she's part of the 98% or the 2%. Okay.
I will. Yes.
I think you have some really good ammunition. So
thank you.
You're welcome, and welcome to the mastermind. So my experience. And here's something that I learned is there's been times where I've prepared for 2.5 hours with an agent to go on a listing appointment, and I go on the appointment and the appointment goes really well. I don't use any of the collateral material. They price it exactly where they need to price it. And I feel like, wow, I wasted a lot of time. But in reality, I didn't, right? It's just I don't need to vomit the information if it's not needed. Does that make sense? Preparation is confidence, okay? And it lets you be an incredible value proposition, right? When you wing it, okay, that's where the money's at, is at that appointment, okay? And if you're analytical like myself, the value of your time in preparing for a good appointment could be thousands of dollars an hour. And I challenge you that's probably, the most important thing you can do is be well prepared to go on an appointment, right? And the second thing you need to do is be able to anticipate objections, control the appointment by asking better questions, okay? And sometimes I get disappointed when I don't get the objections because I want to showcase my ability to engage objections and get the positive outcome, right? Like if I give you the three pricing strategies that Beth talked about, perceived market value, auction, and lottery. And if you have to think about what those three strategies are, you've already failed. It's market value, it's lottery, and it's price it below market. Well, guess what? Price it below market is not the strategy. Price it below market means you didn't prepare. You need to name it. You need to be able to confidently address how these strategies perform and what outcome it leads you to.
Rob, I always considered these opportunities learning experience. If I didn't use the information that day, I was going to need it at a later date, and I'd be prepared on the spur of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gift to you. And for people like Glenn who teach, which I'm eternally grateful, like for his desire to share, right? But in reality, it also probably gives Glenn a little bit of a boost to his skills when he has to teach it, because he thinks about things differently when he has to explain it to somebody. I don't know. Do you agree with that, Glenn, or am I like out in outer space?
Yeah. And also when the audience challenges something, you learn something that you want to add to it for the next time. So you get better every time.
Yeah. So I know that you're doing it for the right reason, but I know it also is indirectly providing you with some benefit. but I am grateful. And maybe I say grateful. Gratitude is also a significant piece to success in this business, because if you have gratitude, you don't get, your emotion doesn't get shifted like the wind, right? You can be centered on, driving to the outcome that that's best. Masterminding. Okay. This group, if you can bottle and AI does a beautiful thing, which is once, one AI bot or robot learns something, then if you have 1,000 of them, you can easily transmit that to all 1,000. Humans don't by nature do that. There's no switch that Glenn or I can push to program all of our brains. But if we were to take excerpts of the things that everyone here does at an incredibly high level and made that available to everybody, I can confidently say that there would be no better agent on the planet. There would be no better agent on the planet if we took our collective knowledge. And that's the power of masterminding. Okay. Here's some traits of the best, the most successful. Okay. Number one is a burning desire for success versus apathy, right? Burning desire for success, a work ethic of doing hard work, and it could be 40, it could be 50 hours, whatever that is. They're deliberate in what they do. They don't say I work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. No, they have a balance in their life, and when they are working, they're doing the things that matter most. They're committed to constantly improving their sales and communication skills. Okay. I think our industry, has a high level of real estate knowledge on what you should do. But I think we have a gap between our real estate knowledge and our ability to communicate that effectively to a buyer or a seller. Anyone see that same gap that I see, right? And I see you shaking your head, Beth. You probably see some of the newer agents coming in, they do their homework, they go on that same appointment, but they are unable to communicate effectively to the client to make the right decision. And sometimes the first decision is to work with us. And then the second decision is to take the right actions to get the outcome that they want, right? I mean, I think sometimes buyers might think that, I need to be in the market for 6 months to wait for the right property to come on. Unless it's a unicorn, the right property is going to be on when they start looking. They just need to be able to have a professional that can help them identify and have the confidence to take action and the right strategy to get that property at a fair price, right?
Right.
That's the reality of it. And sellers suffer from the same problem, the same issue. Like, here's my visual. Beth, I'm not giving my house away. I can wait for the right buyer.
I don't need to sell. Those are always the words you love to hear.
So, Beth, when somebody says, I don't need to sell, can I ask you something? Do you believe them?
No.
Or are they posturing?
They're posturing.
Right. But sometimes we believe it. But we need to ask. But I mean, maybe you don't believe it, but maybe it gets into your head. And that's a communication skill, not a real estate skill. Okay. Here's another interesting one.
I had a customer tell me they didn't need to sell. And then when I was talking to the LCAM of their association, she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad they're selling their place. They're so far behind in their HOA payments." I was like, "Oh, don't need to sell, huh?"
So I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
So the best agents have a constant flow of business. They generate so they don't have to tolerate, right? Because if you only have 2 clients and you want to fire one, you're in trouble, right? But if you have a pipeline and a process for getting business, you don't have to tolerate. And sometimes if you don't have to tolerate, the client behaves differently, right? But if you're overwatering the plant dies because you're overwatering it. So if you're constantly generating business, you don't have to tolerate clients that you don't want. The best agents are those that learn how to deal with curveballs and keep their emotions in check, okay? What I mean by this is most of us have seen agents, and some of us have seen agents wearing your clothes, that when a deal falls apart, like, you're knocked for a loop for a couple of days, especially if you have an issue that kills a deal and then that kills 2 other deals, that you're moping around for a week. Okay. Or you could be the agent that had 3 closings in a week, and then you start to celebrate and you stop doing what got you there. And at a certain point in time, you're like, oh boy, I have to pay my taxes, I'm in trouble, and now you start the cycle again, right? So the emotion can work against you both ways. But the best agents are those that can keep their emotion in check, learn how to deal with curveballs, and move on, right? No excessive celebration penalty and no moping when deals die. Start at every day at zero. Pick yourself up, okay? Don't celebrate success for too long, or don't stay depressed from a failure. Listening, appointment skills pay the biggest yield, okay? Listening sounds the same. Listening skills, appointment skills pay the best. Most agents spend too much time on leads and air quotes prospecting and not enough time on appointment performance. Okay. If you're spending all your time trying to generate leads and you don't have the appointment perfected, it even influences your ability to identify a good lead. Because if your skill level is higher, the attainability of a lead is different than if your skill level is average. And who knows what an average agent earns in this business? Anybody?
$40,000.
That's what I was going to say, Kenya.
Probably $30,000 to $40,000. Yes. So an average agent is broke. Okay. And they're broken. Okay. So you can't strive to be average in this business.
Hey, Rob,
yes.
Rob, to your point, if you can increase your increase the number of leads you get by 10% and increase your conversion rate by 10% and increase your listing, your ability to get an appointment by 10%, your ability to close an appointment by 10%, your commission by 10%. If you can increase just everything a little, you substantially change the bottom line.
It's a compound effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when things go bad, everything goes bad. When things go well, it all goes well. It's a compounding effect that you need to have control over. It's accountability.
And it doesn't come from winging it. It comes from, how can I make my listing presentation 10% better?
Yeah. And Sandy, when we decided to do our transaction, I was not looking at what the forecast was for real estate in St. Louis, because I know that I'm not here for a season or a trend or a cycle. Like, I want to be here forever. In other words, I never planned when I was a lender on, if the rates went up, I have to get a side job. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, we control our destiny. Okay. Right. When people are like, I want to make Chairman's Club if the market is good. Damn it. The market, your income and your success, you're allowing the market to influence. That is pathetic. The biggest competition we have is between our ears, folks, right? If you do all the right things and the market's shifting, that is called an opportunity, right? Because everybody's on yesterday's playbook. You're on tomorrow's. It's the Wayne Gretzky. Don't play where the puck is, play where it's going.
To that point, Rob, when agents would come to me and say that, there's no inventory for us to sell, so that's why my business is off. And I just pull up the MLS on my computer and say, look, there are houses being listed. Every day there are houses being listed. The key is that you're the one who's got to get those listings. Don't leave it to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, we're problem solvers, right? And a lot of us know the right thing, but we just don't do it. It's like motivation. It's like every day you have to find a way to motivate yourself and have a system. And you have to, the business isn't getting more difficult. It's just changing. It's always changing. Okay. So the stronger your appointment skills, the stronger your people skills are, the better prospector you become, because opportunities seem more attainable. The two things that pay us the most money is our database, okay, and our lead follow-up. I know it's probably not what you thought. You might have thought I put Zillow Flex in there or buying Zillow leads. Wrong. And one of the reasons our database is more valuable is because of spamming, right? How many of you get 5 or more spam calls a day? If you're on camera, put your hand up. It's like everybody. So when you're cold calling and you're showing up as spam or an unrecognized number, it's harder. There's a small moat built around your database, okay? And it's a unique opportunity for you to love on the people who know you and that are in your phone, okay? And not to abandon them. But being that there's a new moat around your database, it's not an exclusive moat, because I will bet that if you have 600, 1,000, 2,000 people in your pure gold, your database, that they're probably in 7 to 10 or 15 other real estate professionals' database, right? So it's not an exclusive moat, but it is a moat. And we need to take advantage by staying in touch with the people that can give us the best possibility to grow our business. we should have 30, 40, 50% of our business coming from our database. And if you're not seeing that, then you need to be intentional about how you can change that. Because if the people that you know, like, and trust aren't giving you business because you're abandoning them, then that's on us. Okay. And when you go in the office tomorrow and you see that somebody listed the property without you and you sold them the house, okay, don't be angry at the customer. Reevaluate the process. Okay. Don't assume your database is exclusive. Don't assume it. And then another huge gap or business opportunity is appropriate follow-up. Okay. We can increase our business by as much as 70% by having structure and follow-up at appropriate levels. And when you have the appropriate follow-up, you also know when to abandon a lead, right? Because if that lead does not have the perceived value to continue to pursue it, we're in an abundant environment where we can choose to abandon it, right? We can choose to fire that lead, so to speak. Okay. Many of us try to reinvent the wheel. We talked a little bit about the difference between knowing, understanding, and explaining. Okay, this is one that I'll give credit to Keeping Current Matters. And I'll keep repeating this stuff until it gets kind of ingrained in your head. Most agents know what's happening. They can go on the MLS and they can run numbers. The better agents truly understand what's happening and why. And that's where most of the good agents are housed. But the best agents, the best of the best, have the skills to understand and explain it and teach it to somebody, right? Because how frustrating is it when you can see through the dashboard what needs to be done, but the client's taking, evasive moves, they're going in a different direction, and it's not going to yield the best outcome, right? That happens, and we are not a victim of that. We have control over that process. And when a seller decides to overprice their house, if they're outside of that 2%, that 1 out of 50, that's just critically insane. The decision to overprice it or to take the wrong decision is really on us. Okay. Here's another thing. Passion is free and it's a choice. Passion is free. It doesn't cost you anything to be passionate about what you do. When you're passionate about your job, the day goes fast. I mean, I see, Abe, you're sleeping over there, but when you brought those agents in, it was exciting. The day went by like that, right? Uh-oh, Abe's trying to unmute himself. Why do you think most agents gravitate towards buyers in the industry?
I think they don't know what they're doing.
They think it's easier. It's kind of immediate gratification too. I mean, it's not always, but you have the fantasy that it's going to be like HGTV, that you'll show them 3 houses and they'll buy one.
Oh, Glenn, I can't believe it's 11:50. You know what? I'm going to give you. Can you share your screen for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, no problem. All right. You want me to explain?
Yeah.
Purpose?
Give us a little context to what we're doing.
All right. So the goal will be for each call to have a prompt, an AI prompt or instruction that will help you preferably build the business. I'm not really going to talk a ton about back office because we need to make money, right? This one today is, I see all the time, people get into this analysis paralysis for giving some kind of marketing material based on a community that they're in. So for me, I do a ton of business in Booten, and I basically went into the MLS, and I'm assuming everyone knows how to do this in their MLS, so I'm not going to show this part. Went into my MLS, and I pulled from January 1 until present, every single sale, under contract, every status in the MLS, and I exported it to a text file, just a text file. And then I launched this platform here, and it's probably an AI you might not have heard of. So let me show this to you. Give me 1 second here. I did do it on the training some time ago, but I'm going to show it here. So it's called Notebook LM, and Notebook LM is a Google product. It's free. And the reason why this is so important is that it only uses the data that you give it. So the text file that you took from the MLS, it's only going to use that data set. If you do this in ChatGPT, if you do it in any other platform, it's going to go out and it's going to pull all of its inferred data, hallucinations. It's going to throw in a bunch of junk that you don't want. This one, we want to talk about the Booten market, and I want to be super specific. So that's why Notebook LM is the product. You can see it in the bar up here. It's called Notebook LM. And I'm actually just going to get over to the window here for Zoom, and I'll put it in the chat so that you have the link for it. It's free. There's really no reason why you wouldn't want to use it. So in that product, I'm having a problem with the chat, so give me 1 second here. Yeah, I'll put it in right after we finish this, once I stop my screen share. So when you're in Notebook LM, basically I started a new notebook, and each file that you upload should be a notebook. The intent of this is to create a marketing material, right? So I have my MLS data, all my past sales, everything from the MLS in a text file. And then what I did was I basically dropped it into a folder in the system. So this one was called Booten Real Estate Transactions. When I open up this screen, I can upload files. So there's like a file on the left side. So I called it Booten Year to Date 2026. And I basically just hit add and I drag and drop the file to this screen. And that's all I need to do. And then on the right-hand side, this is all of the marketing materials. And you guys are seeing my screen, correct? I just want to make sure you're
Yes.
seeing. Okay. All the marketing materials. You could make a podcast out of the data without doing anything. You click the podcast button, two people start talking about the Booten data, whatever data you've uploaded. I'm using it in this instance for an infographic. So I want to create an infographic. We see these all the time. I don't know if you're using them at all, but I can tell you that the way I look at infographics are a 10-year-old should be able to digest it. I don't talk about anything that's complex. And the prompt that I'm going to put in, you'll even see that my prompt specifically says, include key highlights that a common person can understand. Don't use terms like absorption rate. Make them in a layperson friendly term that is meaningful, because no one knows what listings mean. No one knows what absorption rates means. We know, and we confuse the hell out of the public by using those terminologies. So make it in a layperson. So my prompt is pretty straightforward and simple. So let me just backtrack, and then I'm going to show you what it created. I did no work. This created it all on its own, other than this prompt that I put in. This is the data from the MLS. I dragged the file in here, and I gave it this prompt. And the outcome is this. So it created the infographic based on my request to say, how fast are things moving in Booten? Are bidding wars still going? What's the ratios for sales? And what are the high demand sections of town? And what sections are moving slower? Basically then it's summarized at the bottom what the sellers have the edge and the buyers have the edge. I'm sending this out to the entire population of the park section, right? And I've already got 3 listings coming in the park section from such things. So my point in this is, you don't have to go into Canva and sit there and spend hours tweaking some infographic that no one's going to respond to. You have to tell it exactly how you see it. And my suggestion is, whenever you tell anything to AI, tell it the way that the consumer will consume it, not how you as the agent want to do it. So treat it like you're the consumer reading this and you know nothing about real estate. And at that point, you can then start to easily sell things to folks and show value.
Is this the same process that you used to create that rent versus buy graphic?
No, that was a little bit more complex on, I was using Cloud for that. This one is, so I think the key here is all AI has hallucinations. Anyone that's put something in, you've got something that you didn't ask for from it, because it feels like it's adding value by throwing a bunch of junk in there, right? AI is the biggest yes person on earth. What you want to do is have just focused on the data that you've provided. And that's why Notebook LM is so powerful, because you just put in your file and it brings the inferences around it and creates the data based on what you've asked for. And that's why this tool is so key, especially if you're going out to market things. A good example is one of my agents. He's 6 months in the business, and he's now number 3 in North Jersey for land sales. And there's monsters in our area that are doing a big amount of deals. He didn't know it until he threw it into this platform and said, who are the top 3? And he was like, oh, look, I'm the top 3. And I sell 90% faster than the other 2 agents. You can, if you want to know more about yourself, drop your data in here, ask it questions about it, and you'll be able to do it. So that's the key with how this works. It's Notebook LM. Grab the data from your MLS and dump it in here, and you're gonna not regret it, I promise.
So Glenn, do you think it would be helpful quarterly or monthly to do a dedicated AI update? And would you be willing to do something like that?
So I'm actually working on something similar to that, Rob. I think the challenge here is it is moving so fast, and I don't know if folks really wave in a storm. Think about how this product, I want to put it in perspective. So I think it needs to be more frequent, Rob. This infographic was created with about 3 minutes of effort. I can create one for every single town in New Jersey and market over and over to them, while an agent's still in Canva trying to create something on their own, right? So it's a force multiplier. And I think that people have to look at this like that. And that's why when we talk about marketing, knowing the right tool to put it into is important, but knowing the audience and how we should be relating to them and being human to them and being authentic to them is the key. And this allows you to do it because it will know your voice and how you do things.
So would you volunteer to do something, and what would be the appropriate frequency if we were benefiting from that?
Let me come back to you on that. I'm actually formulating something because it's so, like, I sat with a team member yesterday, and my team's pretty AI centric. And when I showed them something, they were like, how did you know to do this? Or how did you know to prompt this?
And Glenn, what is your team's business up this year versus last?
40% since February 3rd.
And you have...
We'll close out at 250 million with the existing team members.
And you have several newer agents that are probably going to do close to 20 million, correct?
Yeah, Kyle set a goal. He's the newest agent. He was 6 months in the business, came over from Keller, and he did 3.5 million last month.
All right, so we're just being a tease here. So you have to come back next week to see when Glenn can help us. All right. I'm going to call an audible for just a couple of minutes of overtime.
Glenn, can you clone yourself and send some of you down here to Florida?
I'm working on it.
All right. So a couple of things I want to say is our beliefs or the client's limiting belief prevails in preventing a transaction. Okay. And sometimes a client is prone to do something, but we put out signals that prevent them from, like the income prevention department in our head, preventing them from doing a transaction. Technology has made the business more complex, not less. We need to find a way to say the right thing when it matters most. We talked about the agent I was coaching yesterday about, we had two things that we were looking to do, and then she kept going down and down. And I said, wait, stop, let's do two things. Concentrated excellence surpasses distributed competence. So that just says, become really good at one or two things instead of being mediocre at 7. And the last thing I'm going to say is, habits of the rich and the rest. Okay. These are just a couple observations. Mornings matter most. And it goes all the way back to the Ben Franklin days when he said, early bird gets the worm, and you can own your morning. And Glenn and I often talk about, we feel like we got more accomplished by 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock than most people do in a couple of days because we're really focused and we're not disturbed. Wealthy people are voracious consumers of content, reading, and learning. Wealthy people are voracious consumers of content and learning, and visualizations and affirmations. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple examples, and that's going to conclude today's session. Has anybody heard the story of like JFK when, I think it was 1962, he said, "I have a vision to send mankind to the moon and return them safely before the end of the decade"? That's one of the visualizations that materialized because it was clear, it had very strong clarity, right? And today you have more computing power in your iPhone than NASA had when it launched the rocket in 1969. You have far more capacity in your phone. And then you have these big thinkers like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk who are envisioning societies on other planets. Think about how big their thinking is. Also think about, how successful they are in their businesses, right? We need big thinkers, okay? And I'm not suggesting everybody here tries to put people on the moon, but what I am saying is we need to use visualizations and affirmations to see our own business dreams materialize, right? And most of us, we just love to help people, and we get frustrated when they take the wrong actions to get the right outcome. So I just want to, I want to be an asterisk in the success of your career. I want to reprogram your brain to be not market dependent, to be you dependent, right? And, again, whenever you call and ask me to help, it's a gift to me as well. So that's it today. Appreciate you all coming on, and invite a friend or a colleague in your office or out of your office to come participate next week. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great
Thanks, Rob.
weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.